We're here with the theme of wholeness, talking about nourishing our sacred connection. And that connection has to come from a place of your own authenticity. That's why at Inner Light, we're always exposing you and giving opportunities to local musicians and artists and poets. Because a book can lead you towards it, but it's not in a book. It's like fingers pointing towards the moon. Don't get stuck on the finger. At some point, something's got to connect deep within you. And each of us has their own way. I kind of like the Hindu approach of that idea that everybody has a dharma. Everybody has a kind of way of connecting. And for each of us, we have our own. There's some place that you go to where it feels like time stands still. There's some place you go where you're not worried about the bills and you're not rehashing the argument that happened and you're not worrying about the future. It might even be for a few moments. Maybe you're cooking. Maybe you're gardening. Maybe you're playing with the children. Maybe you're doing some music. Maybe you're looking at the stars or here in Santa Cruz, the ocean. Maybe you're taking a walk. I don't care what you're doing, but do it. It's so interesting when people come to me and they're telling me about how stressed out they are and how they're worried and they're upset and they can't get their balance. And I'll just ask them that simple thing. What brings you to that place? And they'll tell me, whatever it is. I like to surf. I ride horses. I skateboard. Whatever this thing is. I draw. I paint. I sing. And then I just ask them a very simple question. Are you doing that? Is that what you're doing? And most often the answer is no. And what I'm really thinking in my head is, why are you coming to me to ask me for something else to do when you already know was you? I remember hearing President Barack Obama as he was leaving office, and he was on some interview, and I just thought it was so cute. I think it was Malia. He was having conversations with her about, what it's going to be like after the White House and whatnot. And she said, maybe it was Sasha, I can't remember what it was, one of his daughters, who just said to him, "Do you, Daddy? Do you?" That may seem overly simplistic, but we're trying to be somebody else. We're trying to get things through somebody else's path or through somebody else's lens or through somebody else's eyes, or we're busy trying to live up to or to conform to. It's probably only been maybe 5 years that I have stopped judging my sermons through my Pentecostal upbringing eyes. It's maybe been 5 years, max, that there's not a part of me, either in the moment when I'm saying it, going, "Ooh, you said that?" Or afterwards listening to something like, "Ooh, there are a few people turning over in their grave right up about now. I'm glad they're in the grave." and not blowing my phone up. But I'm just saying that each of us has these things, these constrictions, these restrictions that are interfering with our truth, that are interfering with our authenticity. There's a connection. And I want you to really listen to what I'm saying. It's alone. Being around other people doesn't bring the connection. It only brings a connection if all of the people that you are around are simultaneously doing their own connection with the divine. But two unconnected people getting together don't create connection. 100 unconnected people getting together doesn't create connection. The loneliest I have ever been is around other people. I am far less lonely alone than I am around other people when I'm not feeling connected. Okay, I want you to catch. It isn't I'm not feeling connected to them, but if I'm not feeling connected to them, it's probably because I'm not feeling connected. Because when you feel connected, you then feel connected to everybody else. Just let that sink in for a moment. We want to blame it on the relationship. We want to blame it on the other people. But you bring that sense of connectedness with you. If I'm doing couples counseling, it can amaze me. People will say, well, the problem is there's no trust in this relationship. Oh, really? Do you trust this one? No. Do you trust that one? No. But the problem is there's no trust in the relationship. As though the relationship can have something that the people in it aren't. We're looking for these external things to make us something that we're not showing up as. You bring it with you. That connection is so deep within, but you have to be still. You gotta be still. And we are living in a world that's trying to push us faster and faster and faster and more and more and more, where we are taking such pride in the multitasking. But it's a split attention. It's a split focus that actually takes your power away. Your power comes from a single-mindedness. You may appear to be accomplishing more, but it's wearing you out. It's not energizing you. It's not rejuvenating you. It's not tapping into that place, that reservoir from which more and more and more can come. You can't be in your head busy and be present. I don't care what it is. If you're playing a sport, basketball, tennis, whatever, roller skating, you got to be in it. Okay? Because the moment you start thinking, you're out of it. I know sometimes if I'm watching a tennis match or a basketball game, and let's just say it's a tennis match and they hit the net, and you can see the player just going through a whole bunch of drama or whatnot, and then they lose their focus, right? Then they start messing up. And just want to say, let it go, let it go, let it go, get back, let it go. Are you with me? Let it go. Don't get distracted in all of the judgment and what does this look like and everybody's laughing at me and what's going on. The single-mindedness of focus. Martial arts is good for that. Meditation is good for that. We think of meditation as sort of like an emptying of the mind. But the etymology of the word meditate is to become aware. To become aware. In that state of meditation, you go into a place of awareness, not distraction. Just awareness. I'm hearing in my head now a lecture that I use in the practitioner training program from Deepak Chopra back in 1991 when he spoke at a Selamar for religious science. And it was when his book Quantum Healing was first out. And he talked about this guy who fell from the roof and, technically speaking, died, like in this crash, in this interim. But he happened to crash at such a way that his heart like fibrillated again. and it kept kind of like going off and on. And Deepak was asking him, what did you feel? And he said, I felt aware. And you know, can you be more specific? And he was like, no. He says, I was aware that I was aware. Listen to that. I was aware that I was aware. There's a phrase that comes up a lot in my spirit letters, in the series Letters from the Infinite. And it's the phrase, conscious awareness. Conscious awareness. That book has had 3 publishers. 3. It was first coming out with Crossing Press, and they wound up folding after 45 years or so. And one of their staff people started a new company, New Brighton Books, Karen Narita. I went through with her, and then Sounds True picked it up. But all of the editors from all of those publishers, plus the editor that I was allowed to use on my own, all said I couldn't use that phrase, conscious awareness, because it was redundant. And I said, no, it's not. Conscious awareness is not redundant. We are aware of a lot of stuff. We may be aware that there are homeless people around the corner from us. We may be aware that our kid is going to a certain school and has this particular friend. But are you consciously aware? See, when you're consciously aware, it's clicking in and it's meaning something. When you're consciously aware, you're compelled to do something. When you're consciously aware, it impacts you. It's not just a bunch of stuff that's running around in the brain. Okay? So most of us are aware that there's something in the universe that's like really big, like some kind of intelligence that's keeping the planets going and the seasons changing and the cells splitting in our body and the flowers growing and the birds coming back every year. Like, oh, you know, we know there's something somewhere. Like Beckwith says, a lot of people, the word something means God. They believe in something. You know, I don't care what you believe in, but we know that there's something that's out there. Okay. But it isn't until we become consciously aware that we choose to Tap into it. We know it's there, but it takes a conscious awareness for us to do this. Listen to what I'm saying. It takes choice. And in these days, deliberate choice. Don't try to squeeze in your connection time when you got a free moment. This is where you got to look at your day, you look at your calendar, you look at your week, and you say, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday morning, this time, that. This is God and me time. Before I go to bed, first thing in the morning, where you tell people, don't even call me before whatever, before 7 a.m. Don't mess with my meditation time. People will respect that. If you put those boundaries, my grandmother that I live with in Los Angeles, when she was alive, don't call her between 1 and 3 because she's looking at her soaps. Her soap operas. It was a deal point. So I've had a lot of sales positions, and particularly at Prudential, where we were dealing with really, really, really big real estate projects. We were taught about the deal point. The deal point is that bottom line you have to have. And if you budge one iota from that, it's not a deal point anymore. Are you with me? What are your spiritual deal points in connection? What is that stuff you will not budge from and you will not sacrifice? I don't care who or what comes into your life. People come here and they meet somebody. And I'm so glad I'm using these principles and I'm manifesting this person. And then the next thing you know, they don't come anymore. Because they're so busy wrapped up in each other. A few months later, a year later, then there's the argument about who gets in her life. When they figure out they need to come back to tap in again. The consciousness that obtains sustains. However you get there, that's what you have to do to be able to keep it. Invite people into that space. And I'm not necessarily saying physically invite them in, but don't be shy, don't be coy, don't be closeted about the fact that you have this special time. Not only will people respect you, but you might inspire them. When I say invite them in, it's like, oh, well, you know what? Rather than calling you, that's not a bad idea. I think I'll take a walk. You know, rather than worrying about, yeah, maybe I'll write that poem. Maybe then do this, I'll do that. It takes a communing. That word community is probably one of the most overused words you can find right now. But the root of it is commune, connection. You have to put the commune in the community. This place of the connection, when Garish was talking about shining like diamonds in the rough, I mean, shining like diamonds in the light, in the sun, the light, the sun. I'm trying to get there. But why does the diamond shine? When it's in the rough, it's just a rock. Why does the diamond shine? The diamond shines because it has cuts on it. But it's not just a single cut. It's a cut from all different angles. We are diamonds in the rough, and we come up against issues, and we deal with it from this angle. And then when I'm glad I'm done with that. But it comes back around, and then you have to deal with it from that angle. And from this angle and this one, whatever it is, forgiveness, enoughness, sufficiency, creativity, power, balance, order. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this. You're connecting. You're connecting to that certain something. You're not trying to get away from all of your lessons. You're still enough to be present with what's going on in your life. And every time that you face the same issues without running away, because what you run from, you run into, that every time that you're still enough to just be with it, not in the judgment of why is this up for me again, because you're going to learn from everything. But what's the new lesson in this now, and what old lesson can I apply to this? Because life is accumulative. It's accumulative. And the diamonds that shine the brightest, guess what? The most cuts. They're the ones with the most cuts. Let the cuts be for gladness. It says in the sacred yes, let the cuts be for gladness. Because it's there for you to be able to connect. That takes you to that place of conscious awareness. Like, yeah, you may know about love and you may feel love, but when you can feel love through estrangement, then you really start to know the power of love. You may know joy, but when you know joy when you're upset, that's when you really know joy at a deeper level. Like, you may know there's a thing called forgiveness, but when you can forgive even in the midst of the drama still going on, then you'll really know forgiveness. See? So our opportunities to connect with these things isn't when we get away from them, it's when we're in the midst of them. Let that sink in. The time to connect is in the midst. Not when you're away from it. And I'm going to end on this story. Not really sure exactly why I have to tell this story now, because I've told it sometimes before here. But it's a story about community. And it's a story from the Bible. The word church has come to mean institution in our society. But the word church that we use in English, the word that's being translated from in the scriptures is the Greek word ecclesia, from which we get ecclesiastical. But ecclesia just means the people. It doesn't mean an institution, it means the community of people. That's the essence of what church means. Not religion, not institution, but just the community of people. So there's a story in the Bible where Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's about to experience the crucifixion, resurrection. It's like, I'm out of here, y'all got it. His whole ministry was just 3 years. So he's testing his disciples now to see, what do you know? What have you figured out? Because I'm not going to be here to help you anymore. Y'all got it. So he's posing this question, who do you think I am? Simple question. Who do you think I am? And they're coming up with all these different answers. Some say you're Elijah, come back. Some say you're the Messiah. Some say you're this. Some say you're that. But one disciple, whose name up until this moment is Simon. His name changes to Peter at this moment. But his name was Simon. Simon was a brother of Andrew. He had a couple of sets of brothers. So when we think of Peter, we think of like the pearly gates and this big, strong, like wise person who's, Saint Peter. This is simple Simon. He is slow. He is so slow that his nickname is Stone. When Jesus meets him, he says, I know who you are. They call you Kepha, which is stone. That's how slow this guy was. So when Jesus is questioning him, who do you think I am? It's simple Simon who comes up with the answer. Simple Simon says, I think you're the Christ. The Christ just means like the awakened one, the one who understands their connection with the divine. That's what I think you are. The Son of the living God, but this isn't lineage, son. It's in the likeness and the character of. That's who I think you are. I think you're somebody who's figured out that you're connected to the divine. That's what I think. And Jesus looks at him and says, books couldn't have taught you this. Nothing else could have taught you this. You figured this out in here. He says, they call you a stone, but you're really a rock. Petroleum, rock, Peter. They call you a stone, but you're really a rock. And upon this rock, this simple Simon consciousness of being able to discern how the presence of the divine walks among us in, through, and as us, upon that rock, I will build my spiritual community. Not an institution. Jesus didn't create a church. That didn't happen till like 100 years after he was gone. Jesus didn't even write anything. God, I wish he had written something. But upon this simple connection, upon this simple understanding, I'll build my spiritual community. Just breathe that in for a moment. Because if you want to connect, that's what it's going to take. Not only in nurturing it within yourself, but that ability to look out upon everybody and see the Christ in them. To see how we are all sons and daughters of the Most High, whether I like you or not. Not liking your siblings doesn't make you less family. I'm just saying. Let us pray. As we turn within in this moment, as we allow ourselves to steal away to the secret place of the Most High, there's an upper room, there's an inner chamber, far beyond the noise and the confusion of the world, beyond our doubts and our fears and our worries and our concerns, beyond our hopes and our dreams and our visions and all our expectations. There's a still place. We allow it to be our dwelling place. It is our touchstone of consciousness. We look out upon the world from this place. From this place, we see the beauty. We see the wholeness, We see the love. We see the connection. We are compelled, impelled towards compassion and kindness, towards justice. From this place, we move towards balance. There are no restrictions or constrictions on our abundance. In this place of conscious awareness, we proclaim and know that our steps are ordered by the divine. That there's not a spot where God is not, and that wherever we are, the allness is. There's not a spot where music is not just some of it, but all of it. There's not a spot where love is not just some of it, but all of it. Just like the music waiting to be tapped into. So we sing a song. We sing a song of life. We sing a song of yes. And we say thank you. Thank you for healing, for growth, for transformation. Thank you for doors opening wide. Thank you for support and sustenance, healing of the body temple. We say thank you as people are sloughing off the mortal coil and crossing over to the other side, which is just another dimension of life. We give thanks for food and for clothing and for shelter and divine right transportation, for divine right compassion, companionship. We give thanks for freedom from addictions, for sound minds and sound bodies, for healing and forgiveness and reconciliation. We give thanks for collaborations and synergy. We give thanks for our stewardship of the planet and each other, and for more and more creative ways for growth and regeneration and rejuvenation and sustainability to flourish, to go with the flow in the river of life, trusting that the current knows where it's going. Oh, it's a good day. It's a good God day. We just get out of the way and allow that goodness that already is to simply be, and so it is. Amen and amen.